we are here with the EFT MBA Business Spotlight, and we are here with Shannon King. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, how are you guys today?
Really good. How are you?
Awesome, great, thank you.
Good. I want to just tell people a little bit about Shannon, if that's okay first, before we kind of get started interviewing you. So the little bit I know about Shannon, well, I mean, I know enough. Wow, really?
You know, you need to start over.
I do.
Yeah.
Because I yell it out.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's start that again. Take two.
Take two.
All right.
Recording? Yeah. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Craig Wiener and
Alina Frank.
Good with the EFT MBA Business Spotlight, and we're here with guest Shannon King. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks for coming all the way from California today to join us. We're going to spotlight and highlight Shannon's work in the EFT world today, and probably a little bit of background is always useful. So Shannon, while she had been working in peer support, she was a former lieutenant in the California Highway Patrol, CHIPS, as we used to call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she initially discovered her passion for officer well-being, which is so important and so critically needed. After recovering physically and emotionally from a life-threatening traumatic event herself, she recognizes the importance of resilience, right? And resilience, not just resilience, but resilience preparation, especially before trauma occurs, right? That's really critical. So she's utilized her expertise in resilience building and wellness to help to create an interactive program designed to help her clients to rise up stronger through adverse experiences, which really is so critical with our first responders and police officers, so much. So by combining scientifically supported practices of neuroscience with mind-body connection and techniques, she's committed to bringing the exponential power of the action of resilience to the law enforcement community. And we are so appreciative that you're doing that because it's such a needed population.
Absolutely, and I think that that's definitely an underserved population.
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So I would love to know, everyone's got an origin story, you know, like the superheroes have these origin stories of how they went through some traumatic thing and ended up with their superpowers. I'd like to know how you found EFT.
So, well, as Craig said, when I went through, when I was working with the Highway Patrol, I had a passion getting into peer support. CHP experienced an actual epidemic of suicides around the year 2005, and I got involved, and that really kind of lit my passion when it comes to wellness and actually how our brain works and stuff. So when I retired, I started down this road of exploring and became a hypnotherapist. And through hypnotherapy, I actually found out about EFT. And since I found out about EFT, it's just been love ever since. Yeah.
Cool. Can you tell us, and I'm just curious, how, do many departments have peer support? That's like a new term for me. Is that like something that's done widely?
Unfortunately, it's not. I think I just read recently like a estimate that maybe 15% of law enforcement agencies have peer support programs right now. And of course, those vary. CHP actually did start an employee assistant program, peer support program, probably a little over 15 years ago or so. So that was a little bit earlier than a lot of agencies did. Now there's a real current focus on law enforcement suicide, law enforcement PTSD, and so that is becoming a much more popular thing that agencies are starting to incorporate.
Yeah, that's really good, because I think with the people that you work with, and certainly like when I was doing work with veterans, you know, it is about you coming off as somebody that understands the culture within that population. And so you being a former lieutenant know all about it and can speak from that place. But I want to hear more about how you came up with, I'm going to focus on this particular arena in my work.
So I kind of floundered for a little while. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do with it, and was really focusing more around the PTSD component, you know, the suicide prevention. And what I have come to really realize is, while that is really, really important, it's a much smaller group of people who are there than the whole big group that really needs techniques and tools to manage stress, to process those adverse events that happen when they're out in the field, so that they don't get to the place of building up PTSD or suffering from some of the other things that we know, like depression and things like that. So that really, that like lit my focus on, they need tools to deal with that and to be happy and healthy in their everyday work life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's my impression that for them to have to move forward the next day and live through what they lived through, and every day you don't know what's going to happen, and what they have to observe, and what, like, how do they move forward without it having an effect on them? How are they able to do that in a healthy way? And how does resilience come into that? It's like, what are you bringing to that you think is going to make a difference? I'm just curious.
So the biggest thing that I think is going to make a difference is when they understand, when they have that knowledge that I can come from a really stressful event, whether that's just a contact that's not a good contact with someone, or a scene that's not a good scene. They have a tool that they can use through EFT to actually help their body and mind process that out, so that it gets processed in the right way and the emotions aren't shoved down or ignored, or unfortunately using alcohol or something like that to just feel better.
Yeah. So aside from like the obvious, like I can't deal, or there's a part of me that doesn't even want to go there, so I'm gonna numb myself and drink. But what are some of the other signs that it might not be handling it all as well as they think they are?
So that's a really great question, Alina. And I will tell you, I want to put out there first that law enforcement, people who choose to go into this profession, first responders, this type of service, are really resilient people anyway. They wouldn't do what they do, or they wouldn't last in what they do. But I think what they start to experience, because they don't really understand how to mitigate these stressors and stuff, is more the burnout. The internal stresses of the organization really begin to affect them, right? And probably maybe wouldn't if they didn't have all this other kind of layered on there that they have. A lot of cynicism. You know, you start to see a lot of negativity and cynicism because they just are burnt out. They don't know what else to do with what they're experiencing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting that, you know, to whatever degree and percentage, that just as much stress is coming from administrative and peers and politics and finance, you know, all of those things, when all we normally think about is the shooting, the burglary, you know, the more dangerous and violent aspects they have to deal with. But that's really important. It's really that combination of two is quite a load.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of times, I mean, law enforcement and first responders know what they're getting into. They don't go out into the field all of a sudden and they're surprised. So they know they're going to deal with that. But when you start putting in all of that stuff, it really drains the resilience bucket if you don't know how to fill it back up.
Right. Fabulous. So, so where are you based, and how do you work with the people that you see in law enforcement and other clients? Where are you based, and do you work online? Tell us how you work.
Sure. So I actually retired in my retirement community up in way Northern California, up by Mount Shasta. So I do work locally, but I also work online. I work typically over Zoom, so that I can work with people who aren't in my general geographical area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just have private practice, or do you teach or educate? Like, how else do you work with that segment of the population?
I'd have to say yes, yes, and yes. So yes, I do have my private practice, and then I speak, you know, at a lot of wellness conferences and resilience conferences and stuff like that, as well as train. So I go in and train with organizations and agencies, and my goal is to train the people within the organization so they can continue to support and work with each other.
Excellent.
How receptive is this population right now to a resilience message and tapping and the influence of understanding neuroplasticity and neural change, you know, all of them? I'm just curious what the listening is that you're finding.
So what I'm really finding is, so there's a lot of receptivity around that because of the focus on suicide and PTSD. People want to know, how do I feel better? So that receptivity is there. The languaging of neuroplasticity and even the knowledge that we have influence over that, right? We can actually change those neural pathways to be healthier and to be more resilient is a newer concept that's coming in. It's not really talked about a lot. So I find a combination of surprise and almost like, really, I've never heard this before. So that's a nice thing. It takes a little bit of finessing to get a room full of cops to tap, let me tell you. So you have to kind of work with that a little bit because it's a different thing. And until you start to understand how effective it is or actually feel, excuse me, how effective it is, they have to really experience it with you, I think, to really go, oh, there's something to this.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. So how can people get in touch with you if you're interested in learning more?
So the easiest way it would be to email me at resilienceforlawenforcement.com. And that's
lawenforcement.com.
yes, and that's FOR, resilience, FOR, lawenforcement.com.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for building and continuing to build that bridge to that group, because it's just so needed. And who better to give out that message than someone in that tribe?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support, you guys, because you guys are really helping us get the word out. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.